Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Veterans Beyond the Wire podcast. I'm your host, Tim Keller. Along with me this week is Santa's favorite helper himself, Mr. Matt Disher. How was your Christmas, sir?
It was good. It was, I think it was probably strange this year, or a little odd this year because of maybe restrictions on getting together with family members and things like that. But otherwise, it was a good Christmas, and I have a new TV. What about you?
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
My Christmas was great. I have found it's surprising. I've found so much joy in watching all the kids get their things. That is truly what is my big Christmas, because let's be honest, the wife does an amazing job. And there's those memes out there you'll see of, the kids freaking out about their new toy, and the dad's sitting over there with a trash bag collecting the paper, and he's just as surprised as kids. Not all, but yes, there are a few presents that I don't know what the kids are actually getting. So I'm excited for them as well. The wife and I, we every year we say, okay, this is the amount we're gonna spend on each other, and every year both of us go over that, which is fine. I will say that there's one gift supposedly the wife says is still stuck somewhere out there in the mail system. I told her, listen, if you got absolutely dominated on Christmas, it's okay. You don't have to try to blame it on the post office and say, "Oh, they lost."
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I get it.
This was a really good Christmas. I also have something for you.
Yeah.
Amazon.com.
Yeah. What was that thing you said you liked?
Yeah. What color was it?
Yeah. No. And it sounds like that's the case for quite a few people. That something somewhere in a mail system, sitting in a warehouse, still needing to be shipped, but it's fine. But Christmas was good. We had the snow before Christmas this year here in Pennsylvania. A couple little flurries, but nothing really stuck around. So all the snow's gone for now. I'm okay with that.
Well, at least you get snow, because here in Ohio, the snow is always 99% of the time it's to the east of us. It just never. They will call for downpour. They'll call for white Christmas for weeks. They're like, oh, you're gonna get it. It's gonna be 8 inches deep, and then nothing happens. We get a light dusting. I actually on Christmas morning, I thought about making a parody YouTube video where it was me outside, like scraping all of the nothing off my windshield and like just walking up and down my driveway, shoveling nothing. And, having my kid standing there with a sled trying to slide through the grass. Like, son, get in there and all that snow they predicted and slide and do some sledding. Go get your friends and
sledding.
Yeah, build a snowman, because it happens all the time. There's such hype around here. To the point where they're calling for like a big snowstorm, for days the news will have the scrolling tickers on the bottom saying that there's a massive snowstorm coming, and we're gonna get buried, and then nothing happens.
And you have that mad rush at the stores.
Yep.
Everybody's out getting those essential supplies.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's always fun.
Every single time.
Yep.
Every time. And then it always goes, it's like this strange imaginary line in the Ohio River Valley, where it always goes north and east of us. So if you split the state of Ohio down the middle from north to south, it goes all east of basically Columbus, Ohio to the east, and then over to you in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It's pretty disappointing.
Yes and no. I mean, it's nice to see those sort of things. Every once in a while you get some snow. It gives the kids a chance to have some fun in the snow, but then I just get tired of shoveling after a while. I mean, there's those years where we'll get a foot or two, and then you get that all shoveled out, the roads get cleared out, and just about the time you're like, okay, the roads are passable, it dumps on you again. You're like, oh, we just got everything back to workable. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, so you shovel? You're supposed to shovel?
Years ago, the past few years, snowblower. Now I live close enough to the in-laws where like the driveway, I did the sidewalk out front. The driveway though, father-in-law just came over with the tractor, pushed it. I was like,
Yeah,
that's what it
I
is.
say that half joking because I would typically not shovel my driveway on purpose because I used to have a Toyota 4Runner and I'd
Oh.
always be like, I want the driveway to be as nasty as it can be so I can drive my. This is like the best off roading I'll get in
I'm
a
going to
while.
use this vehicle
Yeah.
what it's for. Yeah.
It, and so I'd come screeching into the driveway at like 20 miles an hour, trying to get it to like slide across the driveway, and maybe even pile some snow up so I have to drive over it. But
You're out there
But then-
shoveling it off your yard into the driveway.
right,
You have
honey,
Like-
what are you doing?
nice green grass out front,
Right,
completely covered.
yeah.
Driveway.
What happened? What's wrong with this guy? Well, and last year some high school kids came along, or maybe they were like college freshmen, but they came along with their shovels, and I paid them a few bucks to shovel my driveway off because I used to do that stuff when I was a kid,
Mhm.
and in previous years we haven't had any high schoolers coming by. Like all these kids were not out trying to earn money, which always surprised me because I'm like, I'd rather pay you $15 to shovel off my sidewalk in my driveway than me being out there,
Absolutely.
exerting myself when I could be inside with my cup of coffee, watching my new TV.
Yeah, I know. I want to say it was the Blizzard '94. Was a freshman in high school. Lived in the city. That snow hit. I had the shovel on my shoulder, and I was walking up and down the roads, knocking on doors because, hey, I was going to buy some new shoes and some new clothes. Oh yeah. I had that Sony CD player I wanted.
CD player.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
I was out there trying to make that money. Yeah, you don't see that much. I live in an area now. Just it's not really conducive for somebody to be walking up and down the roads with a shovel. They're going to pass like 3 houses in a half mile, and they're going to be like, okay,
Yeah.
I need to turn around or I'm going to die out here.
Right. Yeah. The work is in the walk.
Yeah.
The work is in finding the customers. Where are the houses?
So, but as we do, we normally go to military.com for our news. But Matt, you posted something on Facebook. I want to say it was yesterday, as a matter of fact, that it's tough to pass something like this up. This is just a fantastic article. It appears that on December 15th, a recruit from 3rd Recruit Training Battalion on Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island, they were at the chow hall, as you get to do 3 times a day, and you're encouraged to process your food as fast as possible so you can get back to training.
Yeah.
And so, understandably, if you're not taking the proper precautions, you could possibly begin to choke on unchewed food. Well, a recruit apparently had this happen to him. He approached a drill instructor. The drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Andy Archer, realized that this recruit was in distress, performed the Heimlich maneuver, and successfully got the recruit back to where he needed to be.
So, I mean, let's talk about this for a second, because as I recall in boot camp, I'm actually surprised that I don't see this headline more often, because there were times where I had a whole meal and we had to consume that. We had 30 seconds to consume that. And if you remember correctly, you could only use one hand.
Yep.
So trying to peel an orange with one hand, you learn how to do all this. Just for anybody who has not been to Marine Corps recruit training, everything is done for a reason. Like you do everything. It's these silly things that you do, but everything's done for a reason. And so you learn how to eat your lunch or open a carton of milk or peel an orange with one hand while your other hand is just on your knee. So, you can use one hand to eat your lunch, and you also have like 30 seconds or maybe a minute to eat your entire tray of lunch or breakfast or whatever you're eating. And so you've got dudes shoveling food into their faces, and they're not breathing. Like they're just, this is the kind of training where you are consuming, or rather burning, 20,000 calories a day. I mean, you need as many calories as you can get into your body. And so your drill instructors will get in there. Especially, this was terrible if you were at the end of the chow line, because the guys at the front would probably already have more time to eat. So here's this kid who was choking on his food, and it's hard not to bring this to light or make light of this or make it funny, because I think we can all imagine what's happening here. This kid is choking, and he stands up and goes over to the drill instructor, and the drill instructor, probably without batting an eye, does the Heimlich on him, knocks the food loose. But then I have to imagine the funny part was probably after that, and it's like, pick that food up that you just choked on and eat it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, yeah, I was going to say any other time, if you were in the chow hall, your entire platoon is sitting at one table. Everybody's got, whatever dominant hand they're using to eat with. The other one, like you mentioned, is resting on their thigh or their knee. No one stands up until the entire platoon is told to stand up. So in just I get it, you're choking. You have to try to, get help. So obviously you're going to stand up. But just that is going to draw the attention of many drill instructors who aren't like right on top of you. They're
Right.
on the ends of the room, and they're keeping a watchful eye. So immediately, I'm sure as soon as this individual stood up, there was probably 6 to 7 drill instructors from multiple platoons in this area. Like, oh, this kid's about to get lit up.
Oh.
Like, here we go. Let's get him. One of the drill instructors realized that the individual was red in the face and obviously in distress. So, like you said, he immediately goes into action, goes to work, performing the Heimlich maneuver, did the right thing. At that point, once you realize that recruit is A-okay and he's good to go, that's when they go back into that time to have some fun mode. And yeah, hey, pick it up and eat it. You don't puke in my chow hall. And they're in your ear, they're in your face, screaming. What are you thinking? You nasty.
Yeah.
Pick
it up. No, put it down. Pick it up. No, put it down.
And put it in your pocket, save it for later. I'm sure they probably went back and they got smoked in the sand pit. If they still do that, they may or may not. There's always the quarter deck, behind closed doors. I'm sure someone or the entire platoon paid for such heinous and nasty activities being performed in the chow hall. How could you embarrass your senior drill instructor like this? Matt, you said it. If you're in the back of the chow line, normally, I know for my platoon, the guide would be the very last individual to go through the chow line. My guide in boot camp actually ended up going and being an officer. He went to the Virginia Military Academy.
Yep.
So everybody was like, what the hell are you doing this enlisted crap to begin with? But so he was already kind of through these sort of programs. So he knew what it was about. All right, I have 80 to 90 seconds to inhale this entire tray of food. So it was always when the guide's done, you're done. It didn't matter if you got 2 bites or not.
Right.
We'll talk about this a little bit later. That is one of the skills. I'll call it a skill. That is one of the skills I've kept with me since the military.
Yeah.
If I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing, I realize, hey, I probably only have like 10 minutes to hammer this food out. In about 90 seconds, I'm like, oh, wow, I still have 8.5 minutes left. I probably could have took my time a little bit. Occasionally, the wife will be like, hey, honey, what's the rush? Slow down. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
There's no drill instructors here to scream at me and tell me I have 30 seconds left.
I'm slow these days. I take my time. Like my son inhales his food, and I'm always like, dude, it's not going to get up and run away from you. Yeah. But I choked. I was kind of choking in boot camp at the chow hall one time, and so I got up out of my seat with a mouthful of food. I was like eating like a waffle or something. Okay. And I got up out of my seat with a mouthful of food to go get some more whatever I was drinking. I think I was later on in the phase or in the phases, so I think we were at that time allowed to have juice or milk.
Oh yes.
Because I don't know if yours was like this, but for the first 2 phases, like the first 2/3 of boot camp, all we could drink was water. So like there was chocolate milk and juice and things like that. We couldn't touch it. So I got up, and my senior drill instructor was in there, and I had tried to hurry up and swallow half of a waffle, and it was kind of stuck, but I was still okay. I was like, I need to wash this down. I had no more drink, so I got up to go get more, and he saw me with a cheek full of food and stopped me.
You nasty body.
So I mean, it was immediately, he didn't even ask me what was wrong or what I was doing. I was like scurrying across the floor toward the drink machine. And so he's like, get outside. And so then I was the gear guard. I was the weapons guard. I had to go out there and stand on the gear. And I here we are, like we're becoming tough guys. We're becoming machines in this point. And here I am standing there, like chewing the rest of my food, watching this gear, standing at parade rest with a tear going down my. I was disappointed in myself, but then I was also like, I remember this very distinctly. Yeah. And then when we got back, he decided to call me out in front of the whole platoon, and I was like, this is pretty embarrassing. I will say that was like the only thing I ever remember doing wrong in boot camp. It was the only time I was ever singled out, and I was like, I don't ever want to be singled out again.
Yep.
But yeah, just again, for anybody listening, if you've never heard a Marine drill instructor, that's why we use that voice, because it's just this imagination of this embodiment of this, this person's choking and having an almost tragic event, and here they are like, you're a weak body. Pick it up, Bush.
I can imagine. If it wasn't like a dire situation, and he walked up to them, and he's trying to get their attention, and he's not able to talk. Like, sound off, recruit! You will address me properly. Like,
he's like turning blue.
Yeah. Sound off! Sound off!
Oh man,
I do know that personally. My platoon. I know that you said it earlier. At the beginning of boot camp, the first couple weeks, it's water only, and then they have the juice machine, like fruit punch, apple juice, orange juice. You could get that, white and chocolate milk. So the first couple weeks, it was water, and then Sundays before church, we were allowed to get one glass of a flavored beverage of your choice, which was, it's like, I get to have a glass of milk.
It was so delicious. If you remember this, it was so delicious. Like I had a little list of things that I kept that are like, when I get out of boot camp, I'm going to the grocery store and I'm going to get Ocean Spray orange juice. And I'm going to go back to the bakery and get a slice of cheesecake. And then I'm going to go over to the deli and get some whatever. Yeah. Like I had this list of food that I absolutely had to eat when I got out of boot camp. But when they were like, yeah, you can go get some juice. You're like, oh, thank goodness.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh God. I do know also my platoon, we had a group of 5 of us that would do what they called early chow. So the first 5 individuals, they flip the lights on, they start freaking everybody out. The first 5 individuals to get all their gear on and be standing on the line, go form up, march yourselves down to the chow hall, eat. You guys process through the chow hall, get back here and start policing the barracks, start scrubbing toilets, start mopping floors, start tidying this place up. The rest of the platoon would then fall into formation. They would march down. So my body's clock just started to wake me up about 15 minutes before the drill instructors would come in.
Yep.
I'd jump up, I'd run to the head, I'd use the facilities quick, I'd come back, and I'd already slipped my socks on.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I jump back under the the wool blanket there. That way, when they flip the lights on, I'm jumping through through my trousers, throwing my my blouse on. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
So like, all right, boom. I was always one of the early chow guys, so I didn't have the entire chow hall filled up with a bunch of drill instructors there. You had the chow hall staff and maybe a couple DIs in the building, but as long as you didn't do nothing stupid, nobody was going to jump your shit. So
yeah. Hey, speaking of these jobs, and this just this just reminded me, like, were you a house mouse or a scribe or anything? Remember the jobs people had? I never had one. I didn't have one of those billets.
My bunkmate was the scribe. There were like 3 or 4 of us that were essentially the supply guys.
Yeah.
So anytime it was we were policing the barracks, we would be back in this supply closet essentially, and the team that was dedicated to cleaning the toilets that day, they would come up and ask for, hey, we need the bleach. All right, here's a bottle of bleach. And hey, we need brooms. All right, here's 3 brooms.
Yeah.
And then it was also our duty to make sure all of that stuff made it back.
Right.
So nobody was in the bathroom trying to drink bleach or something stupid to get out of boot camp. But no, my bunkmate was the scribe, and he's also the individual that got caught sneaking Oreos off of the rifle range. Because we got the bagged lunches while you're out there on the rifle range.
Yep. And
every day they would wand you to make sure you're not trying to sneak ammo off the range and any live rounds. And he had it in his little pouch there, and when they wanted him, it kept coming up. So they're like, oh, what do you got in here, bub? Instead of a magazine, it was a pack of Oreos in that foil wrapper they have. And we got absolutely crushed that night. Just destroyed. So
right. And you called them bag lunches, which is funny because we were calling them bag nasties. And
bag nasties, yes.
Somebody came to us one day and they were like, listen, guys, And here we are, a bunch of, at that point, we're at the rifle range. We're almost done with boot camp.
Yeah.
You know, we're like,
you
we don't
see
need
that light at the end of the tunnel.
we don't need to listen to you. We know what we're doing. We're salty. And they were like, listen, guys, it's offensive to call them bag nasty. Somebody made these, like the cooks in the kitchen made these, and you're calling them bag nasties. And they actually asked us to stop calling them bag nasties and call them bag lunches from now on. And we were all like, I think, half of us were like, oh, okay. And then we just kept calling them bag nasties. Yeah. And I think we did for the rest of, I don't know if that's changed. I'm going to have to ask some new devil dogs these days. Yeah. Like, are we still calling them bag nasties, or has that made the official transition to something different?
Well, you might have had a future mess hall worker amongst you, and they're like, I don't want my work to be called a bag nasty.
I don't appreciate this.
That's not. I mean, the time and effort I'm going to take to putting into these breakfast sandwiches are, this is painstaking.
Right. Oh man.
So yeah, it was. I can say that boot camp is the beginning of a million memories. Not all of them were great in the moment, but some of those terrible ones in the moment turned into some of the best memories I've had. So
it's a culture shock. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. And as I talk to other people about it, little memories are brought up that I had forgotten, during boot camp. But I think it's traumatic for some people. It's traumatic because it's a culture shock. You're coming from the streets of wherever you're from into, they're shaving your head on day one, and then suddenly somebody's yelling at you for 3 months, and you're with a bunch of other people. For me, it was an experience to be around people that are from different places and speak different languages, and that was the biggest new or unusual piece for me, coming from where I was raised. Everybody looked like me. And then suddenly I'm in this exceptionally diverse group of people. I mean, the military, I think the statistics are that the U.S. military is about 40% diverse, which is a greater diversity number than the population of the United States by comparison. So you're suddenly with people who are from all around the United States, or some people who have served all around the world. And, I used to love it. There was this mixture of different accents and stuff like that. When you'd be counting off in the morning, you'd have like the guy who's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like all these different voices and accents. People be yelling across the room. This recruit wants to go to the head and use the bathroom or whatever.
Yeah. I will say that the military gets you very good at pronouncing names. There were names that I had never even heard before. And I still come across a name here and there that I've never seen or heard, but I've seen something pretty close to that before.
Yeah, I know how to say your name. And if I don't, I'll just call you. If the one thing that I noticed in the military, if anybody's last name ended with Ski, they were just called Ski.
Yeah. Corporal Ski, Sergeant Ski. Yeah.
Ski,
hey,
come here. Because nobody could pronounce the name. That's how it always was. And we had a couple of Skis in boot camp, and then thereafter, of course, and it was always Ski. Hey, go see if Ski's awake yet.
Yeah. It's always Ski.
Right.
That's true. But yeah, so that was fun. As soon as I read that on your Facebook yesterday, I was like, I'm sure the other drill instructors, especially senior, got with that other drill instructors said, hey, awesome job. But you probably could have really, really dug in on him there a little bit afterwards,
Good job, but make him push next time.
Yeah.
Make him push until we're tired.
Yeah, put his nose into the food he just coughed up, and then push.
Yeah. Make sure he remembers not to choke again.
Yeah.
That is really what I imagined in my mind. I was like, make sure that he remembers, stop being nasty, don't choke.
There's a lesson to be taught here, and he needs to learn that lesson. So
right.
But over to military.com, and this one, I'm excited for this. This one gets my blood flowing, because if you're a Star Wars fan, this is going to be right up your alley. As 2021 approaches, Army testers are in the final stages of plans for a shoot-off event to select the maker for the service's first laser-equipped Stryker vehicles. So Northrop Grumman and Raytheon are going to take Stryker vehicles, create prototypes, equip them with 50-kilowatt lasers. They're going to take them to Fort Sill, Oklahoma this spring and face multiple target scenarios designed to test the limits of each prototype's ability to defeat enemy unmanned aircraft, enemy rockets, artillery, mortars, and other aerial threats. So we're going to take existing military vehicles, these Stryker vehicles, we're going to slap a 50 kilowatt laser beam to them and then send them out there and see what they can do. The winner of the shoot off is going to then begin working on creating these for all Stryker vehicles. I mean, here we go. I mean, Star Wars is getting ready to happen. Matt, we kind of talked about this a little bit beforehand. You mentioned you came up with a great uniform idea for the individuals manning these weapons.
I mean, I think it's only reasonable that, and probably for safety reasons, that anybody manning these vehicles and any mechanized infantry therein, so Strykers carry people, that they wear a white plastic full body uniform, and then a giant white and black helmet, and then of course the platoon commander, or maybe the commanding officer there of that unit or brigade should probably wear a large black plastic helmet with a black body uniform and a cape, and breathe heavily. I don't know, Tim. I think you said you imitated said, the breathing before.
Yeah, you said the platoon command. You might want to go with somebody a little more senior,
higher than that. Yeah,
possibly a little older that might have some respiratory issues. That way they're. They need to breathe. The gentlemen in the white suits, I just imagine, they're going to sound like, there they are over there. Let's get them. That's essentially, that's what I pictured when you described that uniform. I think it's a fantastic uniform design. I've never personally seen anything like it. I love the idea.
My hope is that also with the use of laser technology, perhaps that commanding officer and any enemies therein that might meet on the field of battle, the commanding officers or the leaders of those units are carrying also laser weapons on their hip that they can just engage.
Are you talking about maybe like something called a blaster or like a laser sword possibly?
Oh yeah. No, I mean that's you know what? You're right. Maybe arm the white clad infantry with blasters, and then give the commanding officers or the leaders some laser swords or something like that. I don't know. And the future could be crazy. Who knows? Who knows? But
the opportunities are endless.
I think we're onto something here.
Yeah. I mean, I hope somebody's taking some notes and jotting some of these ideas down, because it could be a big moneymaker.
And if it's not, we could make a movie franchise off of this.
Yeah. Let our imaginations go wild.
Right. Right. But let's also, while we're on the topic, let's talk about also the future or other crazy things like UFOs.
Yes.
Because, and I don't have the story right in front of me, but it appears as though Senate has given the 3-letter agencies 180 days to release what information they have on UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't have the story right in front of me, so I don't know all of the nuts and bolts of this. But do you have it, Tim? Or
I don't have anything directly in front of me, but we spoke about this a little bit the other week when a huge bill like this gets passed or is presented to Congress or the Senate or any of those 3 levels of the government. You might have a 5,000-page document when the reality is, in this instance, it's the stimulus package. Like, hey, we want to give every American $600. We also want to give billions of dollars to everyone else on the planet. Whatever.
Right.
We're not going to get down there. Whatever. Anyways, but you're like, what the hell takes 5,000 pages of small print to come up with a law saying, hey, here's $600 for everybody that pays taxes.
Right.
Well, it's stuff like this, really. It's somebody somewhere wants to go, I want to know about UFOs. Let's write that in there. We need to make the CIA and the FBI and the ATF and the whoever else tell us about what they know about UFOs. So somewhere in this bill, it is now given these agencies 180 days to come up with really, really fun stories to share with us that may or may not be true about UFOs.
Right.
So,
I envision this as I imagine a bunch of people in government sitting around going, wow, everybody's really mad at us. America and the world has been turned upside down for the last 10 months. What can we do to draw the attention off of ourselves? Hey, let's talk about UFOs, and let's start posting videos and pictures and stuff like that. And that's what I imagine is happening. Let's draw the attention off of ourselves. Always whenever there's a story like this, always look at what's really going on. Like what's the diversion here? And I might just be being silly. A few months ago, there was a video posted, and people took it as definitive truth that UFOs exist, and it was videos from, I think, some Navy aircraft or something like that took videos of UFOs. Now, by definition, a UFO is an unidentified flying object. It doesn't necessarily say that this is an outer space object. It doesn't necessarily admit that this is an alien craft. It's just an unidentified flying object. And I think people took those videos at face value, and it was all over the internet. People were like, here are these videos. It's definitive proof that the aliens exist. No, it's definitive proof that the Navy is acknowledging that they have a video of an aircraft that they could not identify. Could have been a drone. Could be Bob Smith down there on the coast who built his own drone, and it's flying up at 25,000 feet, and it moves really fast. Who knows? It could have been the laser weapons that they are developing, and the guys in the white suits and the white helmets are now flying around in their aircraft. But who knows? We'll see. I think it'll be really cool to release what information they have. I think it would be super cool for humanity to understand, is there real evidence of these types of beings elsewhere, beyond blurry photos of shaky photos of 3 or 4 lights flickering in the sky.
Well, according to the New York Post, the report must address observed airborne objects that have not been identified. So as you mentioned, it's something that they've observed up there in the skies that they have not been able to identify, and should include a detailed analysis of unidentified phenomenon data collected.
Right.
So signals intelligence, human intelligence, measurements and signals intelligence. So, some military base out there in New Mexico picked up some signal that's little beeps and boops, that they think is coming from that direction out there in space. There's no rhyme or reason for what it is, who it is, but hey, we have this signal and it makes sounds that go beep and boop every couple.
Beep, boop, beep, beep, boop.
So,
beep, boop.
I don't know. Maybe, sounds like that. We can make little machines, call them droids. They can make sound, work on these lasers.
Yeah.
I just, just tying it all together. It just kind of makes sense to me.
I think that there could be ships the size of, there could be planets out there that are actually constructed by these beings, and these are, planets that have certain weapons on them. I don't know. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. It, like we said earlier, endless possibilities. If nothing else, we could make a movie series. Yeah. Speaking of something that's had many movies made about it, the Civil War, I found an article on military.com. It's time for a little history lesson. Let's get one last piece of history into us before the end of 2020. Back in May 1864, the Union and Confederate armies clashed in a dense wooded area in Virginia known as the Wilderness over the course of 3 days. Both sides taking heavy losses. But before anyone knew the outcome of the battle, one small skirmish captured everyone's attention. So as both sides are fighting in the middle of the wilderness, there is a small gully in this small open area. And it just so happened that a soldier from each side, one from the Confederate and one from the Union, ended up in this gully. At first, they didn't notice each other until they did. And that's when, in quotes here, bantering began to happen amongst each other. Eventually, the two had enough of one another and declared to take it outside of the gully. They stepped onto a road and had a good old-fashioned fist and skull fight. They had agreed that whoever lost the fight was going to be taken prisoner. So this road just upside of this gully apparently was pretty close to in between the two fighting sides of the battle, and a
easy for you to say,
view of everyone. Yeah. So in the middle of a battle, cannons going off, rifles going off. Everyone stops and they start watching fisticuffs, a good old fashioned boxing match. Because who doesn't love a good fist fight? So imagine that. Imagine thousands and thousands of Civil War soldiers sitting there fighting, hoping they're not the next one to catch some shrapnel or a bullet or a cannonball through their chest. And they see two individuals out in the middle of a field fighting. And they're just like, oh, what's that?
Yeah.
Apparently everyone there had ADD.
Well, here's what really happened. They had all fired their weapons, and now they were doing that.
They were in the middle of that reload.
That 12-minute reload. So they're like, get out there and fight them. They're trying to reload their cannons and guns. And
kick his ass. Get him.
Right. So they got out there and challenged each other to a boxing match while everybody else is reloading their weapons. But imagine this happens today in a conflict in the world right now. Imagine in the hills of Afghanistan, there they are.
One stands up. You come here, me and you, let's go. But an account written by a cavalry man with Virginia infantry doesn't mention how long the fight lasted, only that Johnny Reb soon had the yank down. The Union soldier, true to his word, surrendered. They both returned to the gully, fighting resumed, and the man was taken to the Confederate lines as a prisoner. So you're out there, you somehow haven't got hit in this hail of bullets. You're like, I might make it out of here. I might make it home to Susie. Nope, not to be had. You get in a fist fight, and now you're a prisoner because you lost a fist fight.
Times were different back then, though. These guys would go marching through a field, just getting fired at, and I'm sure they were frightened out of their minds. But I would have been, I like to think I would have been the guy back then, like, guys, maybe it's not such a good idea that we just march toward these cannons. Why don't we do a flanking maneuver to the left, a wagon wheel left, and come up through those woods, and they'll never see us coming. And some commanding officer's like, ha, that'll never work.
Yeah. What do you know of military tactics, son?
Right. But maybe it was a nice break from shooting at each other to get out there and fist fight. And who knows, these guys, they may have known each other too, knowing, the stories of the Civil War, like they were actually brothers, and it's,
cousins. And
clearly the guy wasn't a Marine because he surrendered and lost the fight. So clearly that wouldn't have happened if this were the United States Marine Corps involved.
Yeah. Hey, we were born 1775, so we were around back then.
Right, we were.
You don't hear too many Marine stories from the Civil War, though. So
I think the Marine Corps was largely it was a tiny military force at that point in time. It had been, instated for the Revolution and before that and thereafter. But then I think during the Civil War, it was largely scaled down and then, brought back to life for World War I, World War II. Yep. But along those lines, the fist fight of the Civil War, there was also a similar Christmas Day incident in World War I, where fighting just stopped among the Allied and German forces on the front lines, and like they had a game of soccer. And
I want to say that was the British and the German troops did that.
Yeah. So that's always interesting. I don't know of any other, after World War I don't know of any other instances of the fighting to stop. I'm sure there are, but I don't know of any well-documented cases of fighting stopping for something like this. I mean, these days it's just kill or be killed, as far as I know.
Well, I jokingly brought it up, but you see that like on Full Metal Jacket, they're expecting the Vietnamese to take essentially the day off for the New Year's, and obviously they did not. So they were kind of caught, with their pants down, proverbially. But yeah, now there are no days off in the battlefield. That's for damn sure. So
nope.
But we didn't really have anything, set up. We don't have a guest this week, but I had been thinking a little bit about, things we've gained from being in the military, things we've lost from being in the military. Nobody really talks about that. So kind of wanted to pose these questions to Matt, see what he comes up with, and, I can add to it. But the first question is, things you may have lost from being in the service.
I think that there are the things that you lose in that in that actual transition from your civilian life as a, in my case, I was an 18-year-old kid, and I shipped off to Parris Island. I enlisted and shipped off to Parris Island and became a Marine. What I lost, good things that I lost. I lost my nasty, undisciplined, back on the block personality, and that is, I recognized in my own life that I needed discipline. I needed something greater. I needed to be part of something greater than myself, and that I wanted an experience I could take through my whole life. So I lost that innocence. I lost that. Innocence probably isn't the best word, but that is something I lost also, because you are exposed then in your young life, in your young adulthood, you're exposed to the world and how the world works and different people and cultures and things like that. So there is no more mystery, or there's less mystery of the world and how people operate. But I lost that part of me, that part of the misdirectioned kid, the innocence of just kind of not knowing what comes next. I'd say, along the lines, when I was in, and this probably goes for anybody who dedicates their lives or a few years of their lives to military service, I didn't get the college experience. I went to college during and after the Marine Corps. I was a commuter student, so I lost the ability to have a college experience and those friendships and that experience that happens therein. I lost relationships back then. And I think that this probably goes for anybody who does 4 or 20 years in the military. Relationships are hard. It's hard to hold those things together. And I think when I talk about in my profession, when I talk about the sacrifices of military service and why it makes us a little bit different, it's not just that we are called up to go to war or that we are called up to be in these interesting circumstances. It's that these men and women miss a lot of life, a lot of what everybody else might be living. The other 99% of America is living life and experiencing their children being born and going to weddings, and they are watching their kids graduate from high school and graduate from college and things like that. The military careerist, or, again, whether you've done 4 or 24 years in the military, is often missing a lot of those life moments that, again, 99.5% of the rest of America has experienced. Because I think at any given time, I think it's about 0.3% of the U.S. population is in the U.S. military. So the vast majority of people are not and did not serve in the military. So you lose those things. For me personally, when we talk about loss, it's not anything. I didn't lose anything. I didn't lose anything that I would chalk up as a loss as much as I would chalk it up as a change or a difference. I wear a bracelet. I wear my memorial bracelet every day. Matt Henderson, who was killed in Iraq in 2004. Matt Henderson was a good friend of mine from 1st Marine Division. I knew him when he was just a young Marine. I was in, probably a year before he was. But we talk about losses there. Mm-hmm. That's a universal loss for all of us, for the Marine Corps, for all of his friends, his family. Those men and women that we've lost along the way, that's probably the downside of loss. But, we could probably bring up examples of these types of things all day long, the things that we sacrificed.
I know for me, coming from where I came from, I had this, I thought I was the tough guy. I thought I was the tough kid. And I wasn't a pushover, but I realized quickly, I was barely scratching the surface. I thought I was tough. Like, there's a lot of guys out here that are a lot tougher than me. And following some of those individuals, I myself got a lot tougher in the process. I lost that safety blanket. If things were bad, I always had a home.
Right.
Always had a place I could go. And not that there's always the barracks, there's always the chow hall,
mm-hmm.
but you didn't have, there was no family right there, actual blood family.
Yep.
So despite the fact that you're amongst a bunch of brothers and sisters, at the end of the day, you're out there on your own for the first time as a very young, I would like to say adult, but I know I was still a very young punk when I came into the Marine Corps. So I was not yet an adult.
Yeah.
So just kind of losing that sense of security. And okay, if things go bad, it's ultimately on you.
Right.
The next thing that came to my mind is things you've gained or kept with you from the service. What are some of those things?
Things I've gained since the service are a belly and about
I
20
meant
pounds of, I know what you meant. Um,
your
yeah,
time in the service. What did you get from that?
Yeah, along those lines, along the same lines, losing the undisciplined kid in me, and this was 20 years ago now. I gained a lot of discipline, and I gained a lot of experience, and just in terms of taking responsibility for myself and understanding that my successes and my failures are my fault. They're up to me. And this even took me a few years, even out of the Marine Corps. It took me a few years to grasp it, but I think I grasped it faster than I would have had I not served in the military, or I grasped it faster than maybe some of my peers did, non-military peers. But it is that, and this is something that I tell my son all the time. I tell him, like, the world doesn't care how you feel about things. The world doesn't care about your feelings. The world doesn't care if you want to work today or you don't want to work today. The world doesn't care if you tried your hardest. The world will eat you alive if you don't go out there and figure out how to do things better than somebody else, how to have a work ethic, how to take responsibility for yourself, how to stay safe, how not to break the law, things like that. I think that for me, I gained a very good understanding in the military of those things: personal responsibility, personal reliance. The other things that we gained, I think, and you can probably agree with this, and you and I are a product of this, we gained friendships and lifelong relationships. People that I pick up and talk to, that I meet up with, or, like last year, somebody else that I served with in a different unit, we met up and went to a concert together here down the street from me. And it was as if we had just seen each other 2 weeks ago, and it had been years, So you gain those things. You gain, again, self-discipline, the self-reliance, the responsibility, things like that. For me, again, I gained, we call it a fraternity, the Marine Corps. It's the greatest fraternity on earth. It's the biggest, best, toughest fraternity, hardest to get into.
Hardest drinking
on our birthday in November. But it's the pride to be able to say I was part of this organization that most Americans can't even get into, or aren't even eligible to get into, and then most people won't even try to sign the papers. And that is something that's a point of pride for me, is that even as a kid, I was like, I want to do something that is well beyond myself. You can't take that once you earn that title, you can't take it away. I don't know. What about you?
Mostly the same things. The self-discipline being one of the biggest ones. Before the service, if it was a Saturday, no school, I have nothing else going on, I don't got to work, man, I'd sleep till noon if you let me.
Right.
Because I didn't have any sort of drive. I know nowadays, I have those days where I'm just beat and I want to stay in bed all damn day, and I just can't. I got too many other responsibilities, especially now, being a father and a homeowner and all those things. You got to keep up with everything else going on. You got to keep up with the kids. So as tired and as worn out as you might be, you got that self-discipline to kick yourself in the rear and get yourself going. Even to the point of, like, I haven't been to the gym for a few months now because of the COVID thing, but when I'm in full gym mode, I'm willing to go in there, and because I've had other people push me harder than I ever thought I could get pushed. I know there's that line that some people will go to the gym and be like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, right. Yeah, you 100% can. You just don't believe in yourself yet. Yeah, I'll go in there and I'll kick my own ass. And, some people, man, look at that guy go. But yeah, just that the ability to be extremely disciplined upon myself. Because like you said, no one else is going to be there to count the statistics and make sure I'm putting the work in. It's on you. It's in front
Yeah.
of you.
You know, along the lines of what you're saying about the gym and pushing yourself a little bit harder, I 100% agree with that. When I think back on some of the things we did in the military, some of the operations and training and stuff like that, and not sleeping for days, and you know, being on your feet for miles and miles carrying what felt like 4,000 pounds of gear, you certainly do have more in you than you think you do. I read something along these lines when you're talking about gym mode. And I won't remember the quote exactly, but it said something like police response in the United States is an average of 10 minutes. It takes 30 seconds for somebody to, attack you or rob you or something like that. Imagine being on the ground fighting with somebody for 10 minutes while help comes. And it basically was like get to the gym, get in shape, because you might have to be prepared for that kind of thing. And it just your statement there just made me think of that. I recently started going back to the gym. I have been undisciplined in that regard, and I look at myself and I'm like, dad bod, and I can do better than this, and I have no excuses. And then I started thinking about that, like, man, if I ever had an emergency, I'm not prepared. And you know, especially you look at like civil unrest in the United States and things like that, and people are like, look at all these. Overweight middle-aged men out here like, well, we're going to have a civil war. Yeah. Right, man. You won't last 5 minutes.
45 seconds in, you're like, time out. Oh,
like
God, I didn't get my breath. Like, that's not how this goes, dude.
Right.
No, the self-discipline's a big thing. And still, in my head, anybody that's ever been in the service, if you took yourself out of it, went to your 10-year-old self and maybe showed you a clip of some of the training you've done, and said, that's you. Would your 10-year-old self, even believe it? Because at the time you're like, I can't do those sort of things. Yeah, you 100% can. You just have to be put in those situations, be put around other individuals you don't want to let down. No one, I think that's the biggest driving factor. No one wants to be the one that lets everybody else down.
Yeah.
So everyone's tired. Everyone wants to give up, but nobody wants to be that one that says, I'm done.
Right.
So everybody just keeps putting one foot in front of the next and just keeps going.
Right.
That's really the biggest driver, I think, for so many people in the armed forces. The other one was hard work. I've realized that there are, especially being a Marine, that there are easier ways to get things done, but sometimes you don't have the tools to maybe do it the easiest way. So if you just put your head down and push, it's going to get done. And I was never afraid to work. But still today, we could wait 2 days and, we can get this guy to come by with his truck and we can get this guy with or we just get 3 other people. We can lift this thing up, throw it on the back of this truck right here, right now. And let's go.
Yeah.
But it'd be so much easier. Yeah. But then we're waiting 3 more days. Let's just get it done. Let's go.
Back to that point. Like the world doesn't care how you got it done or how you didn't get it done. Get it done.
Yeah.
The world doesn't care. The world doesn't care if you couldn't tie your shoes this morning. Like if you can't get up and go to work, or whatever the circumstance is, barring extreme circumstances, the world doesn't care. You'll lose your job, or you won't be able to produce or close a sale, or whatever you're doing today. The world doesn't care. So you have to make do, and that's, adapt and overcome. It is, that's another thing that I learned in the Marine Corps is, again, figure it out. Just get it done. Do it.
Plan A is going to be very simple. Guess what? Plan A is going to go wrong. So now it's time to adapt, overcome, and still get to that, that finish line. We all have that finish line we need to get to. There's a million different paths to get there. Hey, that straight path, with no brush, didn't work out. The tree fell on your way. Now you got to divert your route. Figure it out. You still got to get to that finish line. Yep. To put that kind of in 2020 terms, like you said, Matt, nobody cares. If I get to work and I have somebody call me and say, hey, I have COVID symptoms, what I'm going to direct them to call the appropriate people, the HR, and work with that. That is someone I won't have at work to help complete the task. If someone calls me and say, hey, my car don't start, I can't make it to work. That is just another person. It's 2 different scenarios. Not that I don't care. I want both individuals to be safe. I don't want somebody out there driving a vehicle that's going to break down in the middle of the highway and have them in a bad situation. I don't want the individual with COVID symptoms to be sick and possibly, obviously die or get anyone else sick.
Infect everybody else.
Yeah. I not that I don't care, but at the end of the day in my role, that's just, I'm down 2 people.
Yeah.
It's for different things. It's not that I don't care, but when you just boil it down, I still have this same goal we have to achieve tonight, and I now have to do that with 2 less people.
Right.
So,
and again, the world doesn't care that you're down 2 people.
Yeah. Everybody else out there doing that job is going to be like, man, it would have been so much easier if Johnny and Billy were here. Guess what? They're not. So let's just let's bunker down. Let's get this done. Let's all go home.
Yeah.
And you brought this one up too, but the connections.
Mm-hmm.
You're a kid from Cincinnati. I'm a kid from Central Pennsylvania. I met people from Seattle, Southern Florida, Maine, and San Diego, and everywhere in between. I had relationships with those individuals, people I never would have met, people from walks of life I've never would have encountered. I gained so much perspective on this country and the world from traveling it.
Mm-hmm.
If for nothing else, if someone out there is, I would imagine most of the people that view and take in our media and our content are former service members. If you have someone that asks you about the service, those are things that I don't know of anywhere else you can get those.
Right.
You're not going to meet a guy from Kansas, a guy from Brooklyn, a guy from Seattle, Washington, and a guy from, Miami. And you're going to get to spend every day with them, day over day over day. I took leave and went up to Oregon. One of my buddies from Oregon. I've never been to Oregon at that point. I was like, hey, I'm going to go up there.
Right.
Met his family. I have family members of people I served with. That I'm still in contact with.
Right.
Because,
well, and you mentioned, the travel, being able to go around the world, and 2 things that I learned from that. One, I've been to places that none of my friends, unless you're in the military, will ever visit or ever lay eyes on, because they are just places that you're not going to buy an airline ticket and go, hey, I'm going to head over to, wherever I'm going to go over to the border of Iraq. And take a quick walk through the desert. They're never going to see that. They're never going to lay eyes on that part of the world. But also just the perspective. I've been to Australia. I've been to Southeast Asia in multiple countries. I've been in the Middle East. I've been to Europe. I've been obviously here around the United States in different capacities in the military and outside of the military. America is obviously home, so I'm biased. But I've been to other places, and so when I see people, you have the freedom to complain about America all you want. It's guaranteed by the Constitution and by people wearing the uniforms to protect that freedom. But I'll tell you that some of the complaints I see from a lot of people are people who have never left
they don't have
their hometown or their country. They haven't been to these different places. And a lot of the rest of the world does not operate the way we do. And if you went to most of these countries and complained about the country or complained about your politicians or even looked for a clean glass of water to drink, you wouldn't find it. You wouldn't be able to do that, and you'd get in trouble or you'd find yourself arrested. Not to get into any hot topic issues, but even the simple act of visiting some of these places, like in the United States, we're having this debate on border security. In some countries, if you were to enter the border of that country unrecognized, you're going to disappear into the dungeon of a prison for the rest of your life, and nobody's going to know what happened to you.
Some black ops facility,
right? And it's just not pretty. But a lot of places around the world are like that. A lot of places are not industrialized yet. They don't have the same modern technology we do. We talk about the Flint, Michigan water crisis a few years back. That pales in comparison to what a lot of countries look like in terms of just being able to access clean water. Like you can't even go access bottled water down the street. Just as an example, I've been to places where people didn't have toilet paper. Now I know we experienced this here in the United States this year too, but there was no such thing as even modern sewage facilities. So like you couldn't use the toilet and flush it. You were just going on the side of the road, and there were children without shoes walking around in this. So, again, perspective, it's, you get to see these different places and you get to realize, even the worst in America is sometimes probably the best in other places.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Beyond the best in some places.
Right.
For sure. And the last one I wanted to bring up is something from the service you wish you could get back? Now, you mentioned, I believe it was last week, being able to, you work your day, you go drinking with the boys, you're out till 2 a.m, you get back to the barracks, and 2 hours later you're up for PT. And for some reason, the body, the physicality, the mental toughness you have at that point in your life allows you to do those things. You get up, you go, and you can function. And you're not sitting there like, God, I want me and everyone around me to just die because I can't deal with this. But beyond things like that, what's something from the service maybe you don't have anymore and you wish you could have back?
I mean, obviously, again, the community is something that I miss quite a bit. You don't get friends that you trust. Even the guys you don't like, you still trust them to help you out in times of need. So there's the community piece, and that is probably what every veteran says they miss the most about the military, is that it's like-minded people or people in the same situation you're in. When you're having a bad day, all these other people can relate to it too, because you're all in it together. You're all slogging around in the mud together. You all haven't slept for 3 days on end together. So I think there's that. If I could go back and talk to myself when I was leaving the military, and this would be my best advice for anybody, one of the best pieces of advice for anybody who's still in the military or leaving soon, it would be that, at some point in time, and you said we were mini Terminators, at some point in time, I was a machine. I used to be able to run, 3 miles for a PFT. I could run however many miles we'd run. I think in Okinawa, one time the platoon ran around all of Camp Foster, and I forget how many miles that was, but I remember doing that. Maybe it was like a 7-mile run total.
A little over 7.
Yeah. So when I think about this now, I'm like, there's no way I could run 7 miles. Doing 20 pull-ups. I think I maxed out at some point, 21 pull-ups, 22 pull-ups. Being able to push myself a little bit harder and just be a stronger individual, stronger physically and mentally. That's something that I felt like I did not stay true with. In other words, I got out, came home, went to work, became a family man, and didn't take care of my physical self. And it'll probably catch up with me when I'm 75 years old and be like, man, I really wish that I just would have stayed in shape. That's what I wish I could get back, is that the ability and the knowledge and the time and the effort to just continue to push that. And of course, you can't push that forever, because then you'll have like joint and knee and back pain. But to stay in some semblance of shape. So it would be community, staying in shape. I think that there are a lot of things I probably would have changed about my own transition, but I think that's a whole other conversation. Financial readiness and emotional preparedness and things like that. The community is it. Some people that I wish I could stay in touch with. There are a handful of people that I served with that I was really good friends with that I can't even find them now.
Some people just aren't out there.
They just disappeared. I have no idea where they are. They're not on social media. They've just largely disappeared. I can think of 3 right off the top of my head, but I don't know. What about you? Anything?
Yeah, definitely the whole physical fitness side of things. I wish I would have, I thought I was making a vow the day I got my D. I'm like, I'm not running. I don't care if you got the biggest gun. I ain't running for nothing. I ain't running for you. I'm not running for me. I don't care. I'm not doing it. No, it's just, it doesn't take that much effort to, once you're in shape, to stay in shape, as long as you make smart decisions. It's very easy to fall out of shape, and it's very hard to get back into shape. But we talked about it earlier. It's still somewhere in the back of my mind when I do find myself in the gym. I'm not training for anything. I'm not getting ready for a fight. I'm not in some sort of competition. I'm not going to be on some NFL field anytime soon. No basketball courts. Nobody wants me out there. I'm not doing anything good. But in the back of my mind, I just have this thing of somebody's out there training harder than me.
Right.
And I'm not going to let that happen. I don't, it's just a dumb game I play with myself, honestly. But I know I have that ability in me. You mentioned that there are some individuals that, and that's their choice. There are plenty of days where I'm like, I'm turning the social media off because I want nothing to do with it. And those are great days. Those really are. Yep. But yeah, I wish that there were some ways to stay. Social media is great. I wish there were ways to stay closer, though, to some of those people. I know that there's been individuals that have come back, dealt with the mental struggle. Some of them didn't make it through that mental struggle,
Right.
and man, I wish we were a little bit closer. We probably could have stopped that from happening.
Right.
But the biggest thing I think I wish I could get back from my time in the service, and we brought this up earlier, is I just miss the bag nasties.
Bag nasties, of course. Yeah. In fact, my mouth is watering.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned that.
I want a bologna and cheese sandwich and a pack of crackers.
In all honesty, they weren't that bad. Like when I think about, like, if somebody handed me one of those sandwiches right now, I would eat it. And you have a little mustard packet in there.
Yeah.
I'd totally eat it because
Ham, cheese, white bread,
right.
Mustard packet.
You know what it reminds me of is like it's what my parents packed me when I like went on a field trip to the zoo as a kid in elementary school. So it's better than MREs, because if you've eaten the MREs,
that's the true bag nasty, by the way.
Right. If I fired up an MRE heater right now, I'd probably start gagging. Honestly, it's like one of those smells that like you just don't ever forget.
Yeah. There's something about that chemical breakdown.
Chemical heaters
activated
by water. Seems completely natural.
I'm about to get some bagged and dehydrated foods into my belly.
It's beef and pork product, chunked and formed, water added, one each. That's probably the nomenclature. I'm going to dig one out. I have one in my garage or my basement somewhere. I'll dig it out and bring it on screen with us one day. And we can go through the ingredients and read the nomenclature on the box, because everything in the military it's so dry. The nomenclature is dry. Yeah, pork and beef product, chunked and formed, one each.
I will say that maybe this year for Valentine's Day, I'll go to the local Army Navy store. You can buy them online, and maybe for Valentine's dinner, me, the wife, and the kids will all enjoy an MRE.
How romantic.
The kids have actually been for years asking about them. It's tough to put into words. I know one of the stocking stuffers my youngest got was the dehydrated ice cream sandwiches you would see like up on the space, and she was, I got a NASA ice cream sandwich. Like it's probably not
straight from outer space.
Yeah, enjoy your powdery sandwich. I don't know, but yeah, kids are gonna like that sort of stuff. But I don't know,
kids these days.
But yeah.
Yep.
So that's kind of what we wanted to talk about this week. We somehow went for over an hour this week doing all this, some fun news out there. But Matt, real quick before we go, this is our last episode of 2020. 2021's got to be better, right? I mean,
it can always be worse. I think that 2020 has put us on our toes. We had, the best economy that we have seen ever, or in a while. Unemployment rates were at the lowest they've historically been. People were getting wealthy off the stock market. Opportunities were abundant. I don't care what anybody says. I'm in hiring. When people were like, even before 2020, it wasn't good for everybody. There were jobs. Jobs were everywhere. If you were having trouble finding one, I hate to say it this way, but you weren't looking hard enough, because there were jobs. And I still see people doing this right now. Like, hey, I need $10 an hour. Companies are still hiring. It has been a good couple of years in terms of economy and opportunities. We have had some challenges, obviously, with COVID. I think in many cases we're not suffering from or recovering from COVID. We're recovering from the policies surrounding COVID. If we can get a little bit smarter about that and maybe more commonsensical, 2021 will be better. And I think it's, with vaccines and things like that and public confidence, 2021 will be better. It's been a weird year. It's been a challenging year. It's put everybody on their heels again, or on their toes, so to speak. And I think we get better from here. We just have to continue to demand transparency from public officials. We have to continue to demand transparency from media. If we've learned one thing from 2020, or a few things from 2020, it is there's a lot of people that distrust the government. There's a lot of people that distrust the media. And that happens on all political sides. It's not partisan. I think America experienced some things over the summer that, were civil unrest. These were eye-opening events that maybe we could fix through, again, transparency and different programs and conversations that we're just not having as a country. 2021 should be better. I hope everybody who listens to this had a good year, as good as it could have been, and I hope that you plan for a better year in 2021. And I'll say it again. I hate to be so. It sounds so callous, but again, there are opportunities. The world doesn't care if you tried your hardest. Make the best of your opportunities. Be financially prudent. Look for opportunities, look for ways to earn money, look for ways to be a better person, a better parent, a better friend. And don't get bogged down by the little stuff. That's what I'm going to look forward to 2021. One of my resolutions would just be like not getting caught up in the little stuff, not sweating the small stuff. So I don't know, Tim, what about you? Anything?
I would love to think that 2021 has to be better. I'll agree with Jarvie Ken here in our comments. He'll forgive 2020 if they release the UFO info. So there's at least that to look forward to.
Well, and there's, again, with the laser discussion, if they come out with my uniform idea, I think that'll be very interesting to look at military news from that point forward and see what the Stryker brigades are looking like with their lasers and their white plastic outfits. So,
I look forward to 2021. I would say that, try to go into the year with some sort of plan and realize the plan's probably not going to go as smooth as you thought, but have some goals, write them down somewhere, hold yourself accountable, and, have that big goal. Also have some small ones along the way, because that big goal is probably going to take a little bit longer than you originally imagined. So have some attainable ones. That way you don't get down on yourself for not achieving the big one right away. But just keep on pushing, keep on getting better, keep on looking for the next opportunity, keep on growing, keep on learning. That's what I look forward to in 2021. I look forward to joining Matt and all of our awesome guests, making this podcast as absolutely awesome as possible. And that's where you guys come in. Give us a rating, review, subscribe, share with anyone you know that might enjoy this content. Let us know what we're doing. Let us know if you'd like to be on the show. If you have some stories, you'd like to come chat with us, hit us up. We'd like to hear from you. You can find us on all the major podcast platforms. You can find us on YouTube. We go live on YouTube, the Facebook Live, and then Periscope through Twitter. I did see last night Periscope is actually going to go away, so I guess it's just going to be on Twitter Live now. So you can check us out on all the major social media platforms. You can follow us there. You can subscribe to the podcast. Here's to an end to 2020. And here's to a great 2021 upcoming here very shortly. So until next time, we'll see you right back here on Veterans Beyond the Wire.